I fell asleep in Ethan Hayes' office. When I woke up, I found large words stamped across my face. Grade A premium meat. Ethan's secretary, Lila Moore, was holding up a meat inspection stamp, grinning at me tauntingly. You socialite heiresses should just stay home and be arm candy. Stop coming to the office and disturbing our work. I slammed my mug to the floor right then. Shards of porcelain flew toward Lila like scattered starlight. The next second, Ethan burst into the room at a run, yanking her fully into his arms. He frowned at me, impatience thick in his voice. Lila's young. It was just a joke. Is there any need to throw such a fit? I stared fixedly at the open collar of Ethan's shirt. Faint and visible on his collarbone was a red mark, and he hadn't come home for 3 straight nights, claiming he was working overtime. Lila poked her head out from behind him, sticking out her tongue playfully. Ethan got me all these stamps to keep me busy when I'm bored. I was just joking with you, sis. You're not gonna be petty about it, are you? I ignored Lila, my eyes locked on the red mark on Ethan's collarbone. Feeling the blood in my veins turn cold, my throat went dry as I opened my mouth. Ethan, what is this? He froze, following my gaze down, and his face shifted instantly. He took an instinctive step toward me, lips parting to speak. I did it. Lila's voice cut in, bright and sharp, with a petulant, playful lilt. Ethan stopped in his tracks. Ethan sat through a 4-hour board meeting last week. I was so bored waiting for him. She smiled up at him, mischievous. So I stamped him too. A little punishment. That's all. Ethan laughed, reaching out to ruffle her hair, exasperated but fond. You've got some nerve. You did it right in front of the whole board. You made a complete fool of me. The office went dead silent. All I could hear was a high, buzzing hum in my ears. Ethan had always doted on me, but there was one line he never crossed. Work. He was ruthless about his job, never letting anyone disturb him. But now, he'd broken his own rule, just to amuse some other girl. A bitter ache spread from my chest up to my throat. Before I could speak, soft whispers drifted in from outside the door. They say Mr. Hayes' wife is in the office. I want to see what she looks like. I heard when he proposed. He filled 10 blocks with flowers, and 1001 drones spelled her name in the sky like a meteor shower. I'm so jealous. He's been so good to her for 10 years straight. I'm dropping off files for him now. Maybe I'll get a peek. The girls reached the door, surprised to find it ajar. They looked up, and their eyes landed on my face. The careful, perfect makeup I'd put on that morning was completely hidden beneath those humiliating stamped words. The whispers cut off mid-sentence. Their smiles froze on their faces. The room went deathly quiet. Only Lila let out a soft, sharp laugh. Ethan frowned, as if only just realizing how insulting those words were. He stepped automatically in front of Lila. Layla, apologize. Lila's eyes welled up instantly. Her voice rose, thick with tears. Why should I apologize? You had those custom stamps made for me. Said I could stamp anything I wanted to pass the time. Now you're letting her bully me into apologizing. You're humiliating me. Ethan grabbed her wrist, his jaw tight. Layla. She wrenched free, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. Don't touch me. You're both ganging up on me. Just because I'm not rich. A joke is suddenly my fault. Fine. It's my fault. A nobody like me doesn't get to joke with people like you. I'll leave. Happy now. She turned to run for the door. Layla. Ethan's voice was sharp. He stepped forward and caught her in 2 strides. He looked at her tear-streaked face, his expression softening with a sigh. Stop making a scene. It's nothing to cry over. He turned to me, brow still furrowed, voice tired. Lila's just childish and immature. I'll apologize for her. Clara, don't make a big deal out of this. Okay. I let out a bitter, mocking smile. The blue ink on my face felt like it was seeping into my skin, burning my cheeks. Ethan let go of Lila and walked toward me. He grabbed a handful of tissues from the desk, his voice softening. Come on, don't be mad. You're the one who told me to look out for Lila. Remember? She's just a kid who likes to mess around. My nails dug into my palms. The pain was nothing compared to the ache in my chest. Right. I was the one who'd felt sorry for Lila. When she'd cried and begged me to pay for her schooling, I'd taken pity on her, pulled her out of that remote, patriarchal rural town in the deep south. I'd paid for her education, even gotten her an internship at Ethan's company. Back then, Ethan had complained about her non-stop, said she couldn't work a copier, spilled coffee every time she made a cup, delivered files to the wrong floor. He'd rub his temples and whine to me every time. Clara, you gave me such a headache. I spend half my day cleaning up her messes. I'd laughed at him back then. Told him he was being too harsh on a new hire. I'd thought helping someone out was a good deed. I never thought the girl I'd pulled out of the mud would one day step on my face to reach things she never deserved. Ethan sighed, reaching for my face to wipe the words off. But the blue ink was oil-based. The more he rubbed, the worse it smudged, spreading in a dark blue-black stain across my cheek, down my chin, into my hair and the corner of my mouth. I could picture exactly what I looked like. My carefully styled hair a mess, my makeup smudged into a blue-black blur. I must have looked like a ridiculous clown. Lila covered her mouth and snickered, her triumph impossible to hide. Ethan, almost forgot the charity auction starts in 20 minutes. We have to go. Ethan's expression sharpened. He checked his watch, then turned back to me. We really are out of time. Clara, I was gonna take you to pick out new jewelry tonight, but we'll have to reschedule. Go home first. Okay, we'll talk properly when I get back tonight. He paused at the door, looking back at me. Be good. Clara, wait for me. Lila walked at his side. The second their backs were to me, she glanced over her shoulder, curling her lip into a fast, sharp smirk. No apology and itally clear, unmistakable taunt and victory. The door pulled open. I watched Ethan walk away without a single hesitation, and the last flicker of warmth in my chest died out. Ethan, if this is how you handle things, I'm not satisfied. I'll handle this my own way. Ethan finally turned back. His face was blank, like he thought I was just throwing a tantrum. He even smiled a little, a lazy, placating gesture. Come on, Clara, don't overthink this. Wait for me. He pulled the door shut and left with Lila. The door didn't latch all the way. Voices drifted in from the hallway, faint but clear. First Lila, soft and worried, feigning vulnerability. Ethan, Clara's so spoiled and powerful. What if she comes after me? What am I supposed to do? Then Ethan's voice, low but loud enough for me to hear every word. Clara's just mad right now. She'll get over it. Besides, his voice was calm, certain, and it made my blood run cold. No one's gonna hurt you as long as I'm here. You only ever lash out at the people who love you, all tough at home, soft to everyone else. Don't let her scare you. Their footsteps faded. The office was quiet except for the stunned young interns, looking at me with pity in their eyes. I tiredly covered the words on my face, speaking softly. Can any of you lend me a mask? Or a hat? One girl hesitated, then handed me a fresh, unused mask. This is clean. I glanced at her name tag, my voice thick. Thank you. I'll remember you. She blushed and stepped back quickly. I pulled the mask over most of my face, tugged my hat low, and left the office. I got in my car and texted the Carters, the hosts of that night's charity auction. Ethan Hayes will be attending tonight with a secretary named Lila Moore. Bring her to me. Everyone in New York's elite circle would jump at the chance to do me a favor. Lila had just handed the Carters the perfect opportunity to get in my good GRA. CES. I made another call. Find a stamp maker. I want 100 meat inspection stamps. The reddest, most permanent ink you can get. My car pulled up to the house. Uncle Henry, the house manager, hurried to meet me. Mr. Hayes came home just now, sir. Said he needed a proper gown for Miss Moore to wear to the auction. He took her straight to your closet. My stomach dropped, but my voice stayed steady. Which one did she take? Uncle Henry took a deep breath, clearly furious. The starlight. My breath caught in my throat, freezing completely for a beat. Starlight. The gown I'd worn to our engagement party. It wasn't bought from some luxury brand. Ethan had drawn the sketches himself. Hired the best master tailor to sew every stitch by hand. Hundreds of natural sapphires of all sizes dotted the skirt. He said it was like plucking stars from the night sky and laying them across me. That dress was worth more than money. It was a promise. The big, bright, beautiful dream Ethan had woven for me once. I closed my eyes. I could still see the way Ethan had looked at me when I put it on that day. His eyes bright. He'd said, "Clara, I think all my good luck was just for meeting you." I never doubted Ethan had loved me once. But in that moment, I knew. Love always changes. I collapsed tiredly onto the couch. The maids brought a basin of warm water and soft towels, carefully dabbing at the marks on my face. They changed the water again and again, rubbing until my skin stung. But the blue ink had seeped in, leaving a faint, pale blue stain, like a birthmark that wouldn't fade. My phone buzzed wildly. It was Sophie, sending a dozen texts in a row. That little bitch Lila. Is she insane? There was a link, and a photo being shared everywhere. It was a photo of me. Side profile. Shock and anger still on my face. The blue words "grade a premium meat" were blaringly clear across my cheek. My hair was messy, my makeup smudged. Looking utterly humiliated. The caption was from Lila, with a snickering emoji. Some people get so worked up over a little joke when they get old. Good to be young. Right. No baggage. Sophie called me immediately. Everyone in the circle's talking about it. It's not like she said anything terrible. But she trailed off. I knew what she meant. My reputation was ruined. I opened my mouth to say I was fine, but my throat felt stuffed with wet cotton. No sound coming out. I took a breath, forcing my voice steady. I'll handle it. I hung up, almost at the same time. Footsteps sounded outside. A dozen black-suited bodyguards walked in, dropping a bound Lila on the floor. She pushed herself up, glaring up at me. "Clara, you only ever bully people with your family's money. What else can you do besides leech off your parents?" I sat up slowly, looking at her. I even smiled a little. "My name is Clara Bennett. In New York old money circles, there's an unspoken rule. A girl with a doubled childhood nickname I go by C. C. To my family is an unspoken marker of privilege. She never has to fight or claw her way up like a man. No business. No politics. Her only job in life is to be loved and enjoy it." I paused, watching the blood drain from Lila's face. "I'm sure you know what the Bennett name means." Of course she did. In New York, the Bennetts were the top of the food chain, a height she could never reach even on her tiptoes. Lila forced herself to sit up, her voice shaking. "Two just wore your stupid dress. Big deal. I'll give it back." She fumbled frantically with the zipper of the gown. "Don't bother." I stood, walking slowly to stand over her, looking down. "I don't want clothes that are dirty." I paused, my voice cold. "And I don't want people that are dirty, either." Lila froze, her hand on the zipper, all color gone from her face. A heavy cardboard box was carried in. It was full of meat inspection stamps. I nodded at the bodyguards. One picked up a stamp, dipped it fully in ink, and pressed the first mark into Lila's calf. She screamed. Stamp after stamp fell, leaving bright red marks on her arms, her neck, her face. She screamed, begged, until she was only whimpering. 100 stamps, not one missing. When the last one was done, Layla lay collapsed on the floor, covered in bright red, ugly marks. I wiped my hands, my voice flat. "Forgot to tell you. This ink is custom made. It won't wash off. It'll stay with you forever. I was just joking with you. Miss Moore, you're not gonna be mad, are you?" The sobbing, screaming Lila was dragged out by the bodyguards. A familiar car engine sounded outside. Ethan was home. He had that soft, fond smile he always used when he was trying to calm me down. I came straight home after the auction. "Look what I got you." The jewelry box held an emerald necklace, worth a fortune. Ethan leaned in, wrapping his arms around my neck to put it on me. You said you liked this style. I saw it and knew it was perfect for you. Come on, try it on. A sweet, cloying gardenia scent drifted over with his movement. It was Lila's perfume. A wave of nausea hit me, and I shoved him away hard. Lila burst in then, stumbling into Ethan's arms. Ethan, Clara's insane. She had people stamp me all over. You said you'd always protect me. Ethan's breath caught. He looked at Lila's ruined state, his voice turning cold. Clara, what have you become? So cruel. She's just a kid. You did this to her. How is she supposed to show her face ever again? His voice got sharper. Did you have to ruin her completely? I watched him shield Lila. I remembered the young, earnest boy who'd sworn a sacred oath in church once. He'd said he'd make enough money to marry Clara Bennett, give her the life she deserved. I forced down the ache in my chest, holding back the shake in my voice. Did you ever stop to think what would happen to me? When those marks were left on my face, how I was supposed to show my face? Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came out. Seeing him silent, Lila burrowed deeper into his arms, screaming hysterically. Ethan, I'm pregnant with your baby. You can't let her do this to me. Take me away. Please. I froze, stunned. I watched the flash of pure joy cross Ethan's face. He lifted her carefully into his arms, gentle as if he were holding something priceless. There was unmistakable delight in every line of his face. Our baby. That's amazing. We're going to the hospital right now. He carried her toward the door, not pausing for a second as he passed me. He only threw one line over his shoulder. Clara, you need to calm down. Learn how to be a proper wife. Ethan was halfway out the door when a dozen suited lawyers walked in, blocking their path. The lead lawyer said a share freeze notice in front of Ethan. Mr. Hayes, per the prenuptial agreement you signed with Miss Bennett 7 years ago. He pushed the file forward. All shares you hold in Hayes Group have been officially frozen. Ethan glanced at the document once, his brow furrowed, but he didn't look scared. He looked annoyed, even amused, like I was just being a nuisance. He held Lila, forced to stop, looking at me with disappointment and blame. Clara, have you had enough? Over this little thing? You use your family's connections to freeze my shares. Do you have any idea what this will do to the company? He didn't take the document seriously at all. Or rather, he didn't believe I'd actually go through with it. To him, this was just a jealous tantrum. Something he'd come home to fix and soothe. 10 years together. 7 years married. Ethan had always assumed I'd never end things over one affair. I don't have time for this right now. Lila's not feeling well. I have to take her to the hospital immediately. We'll talk about everything when I get back. Seeing me silent, he softened his tone. Clara, you know how badly I've wanted a baby. You understand that, right? I looked at the raw, eager joy on his face, and my heart felt like it was being squeezed in an ice-cold fist. It hurt so bad I could barely breathe. Yes, I knew. I knew exactly how badly he'd wanted a baby, because I'd given him one once. 4 years ago. I'd gotten pregnant. Ethan had been so happy he'd spun me around the house, almost dropping me, then holding me tight, repeating over and over, I'm gonna be a dad. For those months, he'd doted on me hand and foot. I had morning sickness. Couldn't keep anything down. He'd canceled every dinner, cooked for me himself, tried recipe after recipe. Even if I only drank one sip of soup, he'd be grinning. He'd even decorated the nursery himself, fumbling to put the crib together, pasted the wallpaper wrong, then tore it off and tried again, sweat on his forehead, grinning like an idiot. He said he'd give our baby everything, the kind of fatherly love he'd never had growing up. Back then, Ethan only had eyes for me and that unborn baby. I'd thought that was forever, but the baby was stillborn. The baby Ethan had waited 9 months for, gone before it ever got to cry. I'll never forget the blank look on his face when he heard the news, the light shattering in his eyes. After that, I'd fallen into severe postpartum depression. The world was gray. Living was pain. I looked at my swollen, tired self in the mirror and thought nothing mattered. It was Ethan who pulled me out. Back then, he'd just lost his child too. But he'd forced himself to stay strong for me. He'd fired all the staff, scared their gossip would hurt me, and took care of me himself. Fed me, bathed me, talked to me even when I was silent for days. He'd hold me on the balcony all night, watching the sun rise and set. He'd said, "Clara, it's okay. We can have another baby. Even if we don't, I only need you. You being alive is all that matters to me." I'd break down crying, throw things at him. He'd never flinch. Just wait for me to cry myself out, clean up the mess, and hold me again. Ethan had pulled me out of that dark place with that gentle, almost penitent care. I'd thought after that loss and that pain, our bond was unbreakable. But people forget so easily. They forget the pain. And they forget the person who walked through it with them. Now he was holding another woman. Overjoyed for another possible life, he asked me if I understood how badly he wanted a baby. I did. I just didn't understand why the person getting to look forward to a new life with him was someone else. Why all that gentle, endless care he'd given me could be given so easily to someone new. I looked at his eager, anxious face, and the ache in my throat finally broke through. I opened my mouth, my voice almost a whisper. "Ethan, go." Ethan froze, surprised I was letting him leave so calmly. But Lila let out a soft, pained whine in his arms, and all his attention snapped back to her. He didn't say another word, didn't even glance at me again. He carried Lila and walked out, the door slamming shut behind him. After that, Ethan never came home again. People said he'd moved into the small apartment Lila rented. It was tiny, in a bad neighborhood, nothing like the life he'd been used to, but he seemed happy enough. My phone started getting constant texts and photos from Lila. Usually late at night. Sometimes it was two mugs next to each other on the breakfast table, with eggs and toast. Caption: Ethan says takeout's unhealthy. He gets up early just to make me breakfast. Sometimes it was matching pajamas hanging on the balcony. The worst one was a mirror selfie of Lila, in a loose nightgown, hand resting gently on her stomach. She was smiling, sweet and smug. The text said, "You were right, Clara. Dirty people and dirty clothes are better thrown away. Starting fresh. The air tastes so sweet." She even sent a blurry photo of an ultrasound, then deleted it instantly, adding, "Oops, wrong person. Don't mind me, Clara." I never replied. Never blocked her. I just looked at them, every photo, every text. At first, my chest hurt sharp, like a knife cutting slow. Then the pain went numb, leaving only emptiness, a cold, endless emptiness. I ate on time, slept on time, went through the files and updates from the company. The lawyers worked fast. The divorce papers were drawn up. The share freeze was in effect. The faint blue stain on my face finally faded completely. My skin smooth again, like nothing had ever happened. Sophie was worried. Came over to check on me. She burst through the door, shoes half off, rushing over to look me up and down. "Clara, be honest with me. How are you really doing?" I didn't say anything. Just unlocked my phone and handed it to her. The screen was open to Lila's selfie from the night before. Sophie saw it, her face turning furious. She grabbed the phone to throw it on the floor. I stopped her. "Don't. That's my phone." Sophie was fuming, breathing hard. She handed the phone back, sitting down next to me, grabbing my shoulders tight. "He's not worth it. Neither of them are. What is Ethan Hayes, anyway? He never would have gotten anywhere without you, without the Bennetts. Now he's got a little money and thinks he found true love. Bullshit." She was getting angrier, eyes wet. "You should ruin them. Make them a laughingstock. Letting him leave with nothing is too kind." I patted her hand, calming her down. "When have you ever known me to let someone get away with treating me like that? Ethan's calling a board meeting tomorrow morning. He's gonna give half his shares to Lila and her baby." Sophie's eyes went wide. Then she got even angrier. "Is he insane? That's marital property, and it's frozen. He can't do that." I smiled. No humor in it. "He thinks after 10 years, I won't push him to the edge. He thinks he can play the victim first, keep some of his money. maybe even pressure me into backing down. Sophie was shaking with rage. He's such a bastard. Did he forget how he groveled to your family? Promised he'd take care of you forever. I shook my head. He just thinks that's all in the past. Now he thinks he's powerful enough to make his own rules. The room went quiet for a second. Sophie looked at me, worry replacing her anger. Clara, what are you gonna do? I cut her off. My voice calm. You know me. Anything that's mine, I can throw it away if I don't want it. But no one gets to take it from me. The next day at the board meeting, Lila sat right next to Ethan at the head of the table, pressed close to him. She was wearing a luxury designer suit. Makeup perfect, trying to look like the lady of the house. But the smugness and nervousness in her eyes were impossible to hide. A few bootlickers were already calling her Mrs. Hayes. Ethan heard, didn't correct them, just gave Lila a fond look. He looked around the room, speaking in a low, firm voice. I called this meeting today to make an official announcement. Just then, the heavy conference room doors swung open slowly. Everyone turned to look at me. I was wearing a simple black tailored suit, no extra makeup. Only a swipe of bright red lipstick. The faint blue stain on my face was long gone. I carried nothing with me, only Henry, our lead lawyer, followed behind me with a stack of files. My gaze swept calmly across the room, past every shocked, curious, knowing face. Finally, it landed on the head of the table, on Ethan's frozen face, and Lila's smug smile, frozen mid-lift. The room went dead silent. I walked to the far end of the table, where a seat had been reserved for me. I didn't sit down. I leaned forward slightly, hands resting lightly on the polished table. I met Ethan's shocked, confused, angry gaze, and spoke. My voice was clear and steady, carried by the microphone to every corner of the room. Mr. Hayes didn't finish his announcement. Why don't we go over my plans first? Henry stepped forward. Per the prenuptial agreement signed by Mr. Ethan Hayes 7 years ago, in the event of significant marital fault including but not limited to cohabitation with a third party, or fathering a child outside the marriage, the non-offending party has the right to unilaterally freeze all shares and assets held by the offending party. He paused, glancing at Ethan's furious face. As of 3 days ago, all shares held by Mr. Hayes and Hayes Group have been officially frozen. Approved by the court and notary public. A low murmur and gasps rippled through the room. Ethan stared at me, fists clenched at his sides, knuckles white. Clara, you. Henry didn't stop, his voice steady. Additionally, based on the aforementioned fault, we have officially filed for divorce this morning. Our petition is that Mr. Hayes, as the offending party, exit this marriage with zero personal assets. The word zero personal assets dropped like a bomb, sending a bigger wave through the room. Lila shrieked. That's impossible. He earned that money. You can't take it. Ethan's eyes darted between the freeze notice and the divorce papers, finally landing on my face. He smiled bitterly. All because I'm staying with Lila while she's pregnant. Clara. Everyone in this circle has a kept woman on the side. You grew up in this world. How are you still so naive about how these things work? I glanced at Lila, at her already showing stomach, and laughed coldly. 3 months ago, when you carried her out that door, you told me to learn how to be a proper wife. Now I've learned. A proper wife's job is to clean house. Ethan, sign the papers. A collective gasp went through the room. Ethan's face was pale with rage, but he didn't move, just stared at me. Lila tugged gently on Ethan's arm, her voice soft and sweet. Clara, can't we talk about this at home? Do you have to embarrass Ethan in front of all these people? I never wanted to take your place. I just want to be by his side. I only love him for who he is. She turned to me, sounding reasonable and pleading. You'll always be the official Mrs. Hayes. Why make everyone miserable over this? Ethan's face softened a little, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. I watched Lila's perfect act, remembering when she'd first come to New York and couldn't even use a fork and knife properly. Now she had all the rich wife lines memorized. I smiled at Lila, amused. That designer suit you're wearing. 120,000. Those diamond earrings. 350,000. The bags. The cars. The apartment he got you. I glanced at the diamond-studded bra strap peeking out over her shoulder. Even that bra you're wearing. All bought with our marital property. Lila's face went white. I set the asset valuation sheet on top of the divorce papers. If you can't pay it all back. Miss Moore, your youth is worth something. Consider it my treat. I pushed the papers toward her with a smile. Why don't you sign right now? Prove you don't care about his money. You do want to be the real Mrs. Hayes, don't you? Lila lifted her chin. Defiant. I'm not like you. I love Ethan for who he is. I'd love him no matter what. I clapped softly, turning to Ethan. You hear that? Just then, Ethan's phone rang. He answered, his face getting darker and darker. Mr. Hayes, your offshore accounts are frozen too. They said if you don't sign in half an hour, they'll liquidate all your personal assets. Next, he slammed the phone down on the table, eyes bloodshot. I pushed a pen toward him. Sign. Don't make your true love go penniless and hungry. Ethan stared at the papers, his fingers wide around the pen. Finally, he signed, his hand shaking. He spat the words out through gritted teeth. Clara, you'll regret this. I'll never come back. Even if you beg me on your knees, I'll never forgive you. I nodded, ignoring the sharp sting in my chest. 10 years. Over. Just like that. In the ugliest way possible. I handed the signed papers to the legal team. Thank you all for handling the rest. Then I turned to the room, my voice clear for everyone to hear. Effective immediately. The Bennett family is terminating all business partnerships with Mr. Ethan Hayes. My heels clicked across the marble floor. Voices murmured behind me. The Bennetts are cutting him off completely with Hayes Group like this. Should we? But Ethan's talented. What if he makes a comeback? Are you crazy? That's the Bennetts. He'll never come back. He's finished. I pushed open the door. The night wind hit my face. All the whispers were shut behind me. 3 months later, I heard news of Ethan. He was no longer that sharp, hungry poor kid with nothing to lose. Time had worn away his courage. The habits and pride of a wealthy life were his heaviest chains now. He couldn't bring himself to beg for help. Couldn't stand the pity or mockery from people he'd once looked down on. After a few failed attempts, the tiny spark of a comeback he'd had was all but gone. Uncle Henry's voice held a faint note of resignation. As for Miss Lila, she doesn't seem to understand what's happened. She fights with him day and night, demanding jewelry and bags, making him take her to fancy restaurants. Lila couldn't handle the fall from grace. She was used to being spoiled with money and luxury. She didn't see the exhaustion on his face, or the shrinking numbers in his bank account. She only complained the apartment was too small, that there was no fancy car to drive her around, that she couldn't post new gifts on social media anymore. She nagged him, crying and yelling. You said you'd always give me a good life. Do something. I didn't leave with you to be poor. Those words must have haunted him every day. Worse than any attack from a business rival. I set down my teacup, looking at the camellias blooming in the yard. Ethan probably never thought the true love he'd left 10 years of marriage for would turn so ugly once the money was gone. I saw Ethan again a month later. He'd stood outside my door all night, waiting for me to leave. Clara, can we talk? Just for a minute. I checked my watch. 5 minutes. His face was pale. I know this sounds ridiculous now, but I don't want you to think the worst of me. At first, I helped Lila because she reminded me of myself, back when I had nothing. Then she'd stay late at the office, bring me lunch she made herself. One night it was raining. She was soaked through. I felt bad for her. So you slept with her out of pity. I cut him off, impatient. No, that's not it. She came on to me. That night she was crying, said she was scared of thunder, asked me to stay with her. I was drunk. When I woke up, she was already. I laughed out loud. Same old story. How predictable. Ethan's face went white. I know it all sounds like excuses, but I've regretted it every single day. She's nothing like you. She only cares about my money. I'd heard enough. The mockery in my eyes was impossible to hide. Enough. 5 minutes are up. I turned to leave. Ethan's usually straight shoulders slumped. He grabbed my wrist. Eyes red. Clara, give me another chance. Please. I pulled my hand away gently. My voice final. No. I heard about Ethan again a year later. Having tea with Sophie. She was telling me all about it. Eager. Hey, did you hear? About Ethan and that Lila. My spoon paused mid-stir in my tea. Sophie's voice was dismissive. Lila had a boy, but the baby had a bad heart condition. The surgery cost 80,000. The sycamore leaves outside were falling one by one. I didn't say anything. 80,000. That was less than Ethan used to spend on a single bottle of wine at an exclusive private club. Later I heard they fought about that money every single day. Ethan blamed Lila for drinking. While she was pregnant, Lila called Ethan a useless loser. One fight got so bad, Ethan pushed her down the stairs. She called the police, pressed charges, made it all public. Finally, Lila ran away in the middle of the night. Left a note saying she was sick of being poor. The baby didn't make it through the winter. Ethan went crazy looking for her. 3 months later, someone found her in a small town in Florida. Working at a nightclub. She was hanging off a 60-year-old wealthy Asian entrepreneur. Laughing and flirting. Ethan burst in, grabbed her by the hair to drag her out. The security guards beat him black and blue, but he wouldn't let go. When the police showed up, he was laughing. Blood pouring from his mouth. Run. I'll make you pay for our son. No matter where you go. The late autumn yard was covered in a thick layer of fallen leaves. I was quiet for a long time, then nodded. My voice flat. I see. So their great love wasn't even worth $80,000. Steam rose from my teacup. Through the mist, I thought I saw 18-year-old Ethan. He was wearing a faded school uniform, waving at me from the classroom door. His smile bright and clean. I blinked. The mist cleared. The window was empty. Only Sophie was looking at me, worried. You okay? I took a sip of tea. It was a little cold. Some people, once they walk away, never come back. That boy who'd once had eyes only for me was gone. Lost to time.